Hey, 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 you made it, and I made it, and we're all here together. We all made it. I love when we can make it to the live stream of consciousness. Well, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. Um, Back in action. Last week we had a good guest, Kelly Talixin, getting back into it after, I don't know, was it 2 weeks, a week or two of kind of not being able to do the show, but I'm back in my happy place here in the live stream of consciousness, and I am super excited for tonight's episode because it's going to be a little bit different than normal. Um, the guest that I have speaking tonight happens to be my girlfriend. So you're going to see a little bit of a different relationship, probably. Although the conversation is going to be very similar because she is a Reiki master, and I'll let her tell you all about what Reiki is. But Reiki has so much to do with energy and the energy exchange that we're always talking about here on the live stream of consciousness. So again, welcome. I see Jill out there. I see Lily out there. What's up, ladies? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. I know we're going to have some cool visitors watching to see Janice talk about her stuff. I gave a shout out to my hairstylist yesterday on the Strange and Wonderful with my new haircut here, Deb. Hopefully she'll be watching too because she's kind of tied to what's going on with Janice. So anyway, I'm going to get started. But if you're new to the live stream of consciousness, basically it's an ongoing conversation that I've been having for the last year and a half with lots of different people that I know who are uh, they resonate with all different modalities of spirituality, whether it be psychic mediums or astrologers or numerology or akashic records or all the very cool things that we've been exploring. And tonight we're going to explore specifically Reiki, which is something that we haven't explored before. So, brief introduction for my guest. I met Janice many years ago. I was working for an advertising agency in the corporate world in a cubicle. I used to wear a button-down shirt and a tie to work. Uh, and it was a kind of a different life. But I was still kind of on the path to what I do now, graphic design and all of that stuff. It's all related. I kind of stayed the path, but just got myself out of the cubicle. And then we reconnected many years later on Facebook. We just kind of started following each other as friends. Um, we had kind of gone separate paths and all of that. And one day she asked me if I would do a barter session with her for photography because she was starting to do Reiki and she needed to get a headshot done. And I had Reiki done once or twice to no success. It was kind of some people that I trusted and tried it out and didn't really feel anything. What's up, Sophie? I see Sophie out there. Good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. And so I said, you know what, Janice, I will try it. I certainly am open-minded and I will definitely try it. So we bartered. I did some headshots for her and she laid me down on her Reiki table. And, it's no coincidence that we're dating now because that was kind of a magical experience, I think, for both of us. And what I experienced was definitely energetic. I think when Janice put her hands on the side of my head, I heard the ocean as if somebody had put two shells up against my ears. And then when she did lay her hands on me, I seriously thought she had warmed her hands on like a rock warmer or like a fire warmer or something because her hands were so hot. So for the first time, Reiki actually did something to me. It affected me. I felt it go through my body. I had the effects of it, and we started dating, and we became really close. And she's an amazing energetic healer. Um, there's more to what she does. I'll let her tell you about it because I want to bring her on the show. She's sitting so patiently in the green room, And here she is, the quiet healer herself, Janice Tverberg. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi,
What's up, babe?
everybody.
How are you
Hi,
doing?
baby. I'm good. I'm good. I'm
Cool.
nervous,
It's
so
good to see you. You look so beautiful.
thank
I'm
you. Deb did
so
my
happy.
hair today.
Awesome. You look wonderful. Uh, oh, I see Carrie Ann is out there. What's up, Carrie Ann?
Hi,
Uh,
Carrie.
so
Hi,
welcome to my
Sophie.
show.
Yeah.
Saying hello across country. Welcome to my show. Finally, we've talked about having you on before, and finally, the new season is here. I'm here by myself without Jesse, and ready to talk a little more seriously, and get some good guests on the show. And it was good to take the opportunity to get you here. So I see Trisha out there. I see Diana
Hey,
out there.
Trish. Hey, Diana.
Awesome. You brought all your crew, man. That's
I
awesome.
did. I brought the support team.
Cool. So, all right, you know what the show is about. You've been watching me kind of do it and get into it. So there's a couple things we have to get past before we get into what you're all about. And that is the standard question that we ask all the guests, and just to kind of get on the same page and get a base level of where you're at. What does consciousness mean to you? Give us your definition of consciousness.
Consciousness to me is being aware, being self aware, but also being aware of the surroundings, the people and the environment surrounding you, and meeting people where they are at, because you can't talk high level to someone who isn't there or in the process of getting there, because they will feel like you're talking down to them or that you're crazy. And I find that I am able to bring people into awareness by meeting them at their level and kind of like, I get what you're saying. Have you thought about XYZ? Or I get what you're saying. Can I try and help you through that?
Right.
Because I have been through so much in my life, and just know that when I meet people where they're at, they're more comfortable moving forward. So being
Sure.
conscious means being aware of where you're at and being aware of where somebody else is at and meeting them at that level.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that. I like that. Last week, Kelly brought up that a similar thing about different levels of consciousness, subconscious, and this. So now what you're bringing up is a different thing, and that is that everybody that you encounter kind of is at a certain level of awareness,
Yeah.
and being conscious is being able to kind of navigate that, which is something you and I have been talking about a lot lately.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
cool. Awesome. That's a great answer. Consciousness is such an amazing subject. I love talking about that and getting into those kinds of things.
The
So
philosophical conversations.
I love it. So I guess this really is going to kind of lead into your story and Reiki, because I want you to really define Reiki to my audience, from your point of view. But the other question is kind of, I guess, what kind of got you there. So for me and a lot of the conversations we have, we talk about um, life before and after consciousness, or before and after being aware,
Yeah.
or being on the spiritual journey. There's lots of different terminologies for it. But is there something specific that you can talk about, maybe an experience or a memory that um you know brought you from kind of 3D existence to more D existence?
More to existence. Well, for me, it's always kind of, I was always, I, I'm not sure if you know who Marianne DeMarco is, but I was described by Marianne DeMarco as a Sesame Street song. And it made so much sense, because the Sesame Street song of one of these things just doesn't belong here. That's my life. That's how I
Okay.
felt most of my life. And
Okay.
then I went to a healing, I went to my friend Anita, and she's like, you're psychic, right? And I looked at her, I'm like, I'm not psychic. That's why I paid you, because she is psychic. And that was kind of like one of the first buzzes. And I mean, I had dabbled and took interest in, but I also was raised with a strong religious background, and there is a
Right.
place for that. That's a foundation in my story. Because if it wasn't for my
Mhm.
faith, I would not be here. I'm gonna not
Okay.
lie. It got
Okay.
me through a lot. But
So
Anita was kind of like a turning point. And then I went to a healing with Pat Longo, and Pat Longo is like, "You're not sick, you're psychic." And I started
Mhm.
taking classes with Pat. And every time
Mhm.
I would give her a hug, like at the end of the night and on my way, she goes, "Your hands are hot. You have to
Mhm.
heal people." And I would look at her again, like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And then after a couple of years of that, and she's like, "You're going to start burning up. You need to do something with your hands."
Mhm. Mhm.
So Lorraine Austin kept coming up, and she's my Reiki master teacher. But after the third time, I believe in the rules of three. So after the third time she came up, and somebody was giving her name, Denise, I think Christine Denise was giving her name to another student. I go, "I need that number two.
Mhm.
I need
Mhm.
that number two," because she does
Right.
Reiki. It's like, okay, I don't know anything about Reiki, but that's a healing thing. So I need to talk to
Mhm.
her. I
Mhm.
went
Mhm.
to a healing session with her, and then I signed up for my first Reiki class. And then I've done Reiki 1, 2, master practitioner, and master teacher. So while I am a master teacher, I have not been called to teach, but
Mhm.
I have been called to do this, as this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Gotcha. So I'm going to back you up a little bit here. Um, and it seems like what you're saying is you were being drawn towards Reiki, almost as for yourself, like you wanted to experience the
It,
healing of it, somebody to
yeah,
heal you.
yeah,
Um, but the people that you were working with, Pat Longo, who's pretty prominent here on Long Island,
yeah.
um, so some pretty important people who kind of have a good grasp on these things were telling you you've got something going on. So
Yes,
so tell
yes.
us more about that. Well, actually, before you do that, I want to go back to Reiki and what is Reiki exactly? What you were being drawn towards it when you finally got to it, what did you discover that it was?
Reiki is an ancient Japanese deep healing and relaxation technique that aligns mind, body, and spirit. Um, and you don't have to touch. People are like, "Oh, that that's massage." No, there can be no touching involved whatsoever. When I
Mhm.
do my distant healings, I'm not touching the other person, but they
Mhm.
feel everything that goes on.
Mhm.
Sophie can attest to this. My brother in law, Eric, can attest to it. Anybody I have done distant healing on knows
Right.
that I don't have to touch you for you to feel Reiki.
Right.
Most people associate it with massage. They are independent, but can be incorporated.
Mhm.
Yoga can incorporate Reiki, but again, it's independent and stands on its own. And it
Mhm.
really is to bring you back into balance so that you can be aligned with what you need to do next.
Hmm. Interesting. So it's Sophie saying yep. Um, so it's a modality that's kind of used in combination, you're saying, with meditation and yoga, and some of these other modalities. And again,
It
we
can
talk
be
about,
incorporated, but it is its standalone practice.
but it's a standalone practice, right? And you were saying something interesting too, is that it doesn't necessarily involve touch, but it can. There are different techniques. Some of them actually do involve you physically laying your hands on the person, and others, I believe, you're kind of
In the aura.
energetically, yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of energetically in the field, in the auric field, right? So for me, I started by telling the story of my first experience with you, and that was, I mean, the moment you put your hands, my eyes were closed, so I
Yeah.
didn't even know that your hands were here. Not only did I feel the warmth from this far away, immediately it was just like like this white noise, like
Noise.
really loud. I mean, like it wasn't just, it was definitely significant to me. I was like, okay, I'm feeling something right now, and it was all in my head and my upper chakra area. I guess that's what you're working on when you've got your hands there, right?
Yeah,
um,
that's the crown, third eye, and throat.
okay. So that was something immediate. Can you tell me what's happening there, or
That is whatever you need. Whatever you
Mm,
needed at the time, whether your ears needed to be open or you needed to connect with serenity, that my hands are merely a conduit. So
mhm,
when my hands are cold, which is very rare, I might
mhm.
add, when I'm working on somebody, it's because they need to feel cold. Something in
Wow.
that area of the body needs to be soothed. Where my hands, as normally, get super hot. Like I feel like the fire starter, like I can throw a
Right.
fireball across the room.
Right.
And the first time that happened was really weird. And Lorraine's like, oh, that's normal. I'm like, okay. I have no idea what's going on. But now I
Right.
finally understood what Pat was saying when she says, your hands are burning up. You have to do something.
Right.
So I was glad that between the two of them, it was like, that's normal. You're okay. You're not gonna do anything. It was very funny. I don't know if you've met Brad's wife, but our friend Brad,
Mm.
from the agency, Brad
I know.
Martin.
I remember Brad. Yeah. Yeah.
His wife, she was, when I was becoming a master practitioner, allowed me to work on her. And the first time I worked on her, she had shorts on. The second time I worked on her, she had pants on.
Yeah.
So
She was afraid of getting
it
burned.
got my hands got very hot, and I felt so bad because I was like,
Uh,
I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know, I'm not going to tell my client how to dress. And
right.
by the way, my hands might feel like I just put them on a like a hot stone massage thing. And
Right.
it was
Right.
very funny that you brought that up because you saw me put up my table. There was nothing, nothing
Yeah.
there. It was
Yeah.
just the
No.
heat of my
And I
hands.
mean, it literally felt that's the only way I can describe it. Like as if you had preheated your hands, significantly, not just like a little bit. Um,
Right. And then
and that's it. That's energy. So go ahead, continue.
And like when I'm doing distant healing, they feel where the energy is. Like Eric, my brother-in-law, and even when I worked on my friend Allison, they kind of felt when I moved to a certain area, they were like, "Wow, were you here? Did you do this?" And because
Right.
they were able to feel it.
So
So that's the wonderful thing is I can be working and helping somebody 2, 3,000 miles away. Or during COVID, Allison was just in Holbrook
mhm,
and here in Massapequa, and I
right,
could
right.
still be of service, which is awesome.
And that's really interesting. I want to talk to everybody and explain to them what you're actually doing there, because I don't know if people understand. Obviously, you're on like some sort of Zoom call
Yeah.
connecting to talk and hear and see each other, but the physical part, you actually have a physical
I use
doll
a teddy bear,
that
yes.
represents the person, right?
Yes, I
So
use a teddy
so
bear.
you'll actually do the Reiki as if the person was there to the
Hmm.
doll, and you're saying that the person is responding as if, wow, I can feel your hands are, over my legs right now, or whatever
Right.
it is.
I mean, they're quiet, and then after the session, after we talk, they'll be like, I was having, I was like, and I'll say, were you having pains here or there or wherever? And they're like,
Mhm,
yeah, and I felt something move, and it's interesting. And then
mhm,
the in person is more in tune and more powerful because not Jill, Carrie, who just recently had a full hour Reiki session, can attest to this. I go where the energy tells me.
mhm.
And so I'm not, it's while when you're learning, it's like anything that you're learning, like math. 1 plus 1 is 2.
Right.
2 plus 2 is 4. And then you
Sure.
figure out if it's a prime or composite number, there's different ways of getting an answer for a composite number versus a prime number. Um,
Right.
Weird that I'm talking about math. That's my least favorite subject, but it's the only thing I can really attest to right now. And that it helps because once you learn that there's more than one way to get an answer, it's kind of the same way as there's more than one way to get the help you need hands on.
Right, right. Carrie is you're getting a lot of endorsement, like validations in what you're saying. Says you move intuitively, and that's interesting to me again, because Reiki, again, and what we talk about here with energy, is the idea that it's an exchange. So you're actually communicating and getting signals from that person's energy as
Yes.
far as where you need to be, and then returning that energy, I guess, once you know, okay, I'm supposed to be over here, returning that. um That's great. And again, the thing for me, and I would love to know what it feels like. I mean, when your hands are getting hot, is can you describe what that feels like? Is that
It's interesting. Sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes it's like, holy crap, I'll walk into my friend Elizabeth's office and say, my hands are hot. Can I borrow your wrists? Or I'll be, I was at Trisha's one time and I'm like, my hands are hot. And I'm just like, touch her wrists or her knees or something like that. And
Mhm.
it's got the first couple times it was weird. Now she's like, oh, I need that.
So does it feel like it's like you feel like you need to get rid of it?
I
It's like
feel like I need to share the energy. Like the first
Mhm.
few times that happened at the office, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And that's when Lorraine would say, she goes, just send it out. Because I worked in
Mhm.
an office, I recently left that office, but I worked in an office where the toxicity was high.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people who suffer from actual physical ailments that would probably need it, but not necessarily be open to it. And she's
Right.
just do what you would do for distant healing and send it out to everyone. And
Right.
hopefully, whoever needs it will receive it.
Right. Right. So Carrie Ann is chiming in again. She said she felt where the energy went, and then you would move to that spot. And she said, "Ouch, hot hands." So she's actually experienced the hot hands. Um, so I mean, again, this is really kind of fascinating to me because I feel like I'm kind of empathetic. I can
Mhm.
sense energy. I think everybody is. Everybody
Yeah.
has their own relationship with energy. And a lot of times I'll tell a story. I like to try to relate the experience because I think most people have experienced this of like going into a concert or going into an event that's full of people who are at this certain level of energy. They're all excited to be there for a certain reason. You can feel that. That's very palpable. So that's kind of like the beginning for me of this extra sense of energy and being like, okay, I sense something, and not only do I sense it, but I know what it is. It's energy, and I
It's
know,
energy. Yep.
I can recognize
It's a
it. But
collective. Yeah. And
right,
in a concert or a crowd environment, it's kind of a collective.
it's exactly so. It's much more powerful, and so that's my example to give to most people who kind of don't really can't wrap their head around the idea of energy as a real thing. But now we're talking about somebody like you or my Christopher Allen, and
Yep.
here's where I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a jump to some of the other things that you do. Is that sense of the mediumship. So
Yep.
um I recently learned the difference between a psychic and a medium, those two words. A psychic can sense all of these energies, but a medium specifically is talking to other people who have passed.
Yep.
So that's a part of what you do as well. Why don't you tell us how that all happened and how that comes into this?
That started very young. You know how some kids have imaginary friends? I
Mhm.
had imaginary friends. I had an imaginary classroom full of friends. And
Okay.
looking back, they probably weren't so imaginary.
Hmm.
Um, so,
Hmm.
and I lost my dad at a very young age.
Hmm.
I was 2 when he passed.
Wow.
So I think I've always been in tune because he's always been around.
Hmm.
And I also feel like I'm a very old soul because I was the 9-year-old hanging out with great grandma on her like 100th birthday, just talking to her.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, and then when they crossed over, it was like, that was probably one of her best experiences is having some young child actually interested in what she has to say.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So for me, I was like, okay, I would always kind of have a sense is like I didn't know anything about communicating with those who have passed until much later.
Okay.
But when I was younger, I was afraid like if somebody was sick or ill, especially my older relatives, like the people who were in their 80s and 90s, and I knew they were sick or ill, I was afraid to go to sleep
Mm.
because I would go to sleep, I would wake up from my nap, and so passed. I
Mhm.
was terrified to go to sleep because
Wow.
someone was going to die if I went to bed.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but it was just my way of dealing with their crossing. I was like, I knew something was going
Gotcha.
to happen. and I wasn't, I guess, capable of handling it in a conscious state, so I had to deal with it in an unconscious state.
Interesting.
And I've gotten better at that, obviously, as I've gotten older. But yeah, there was a period of years there where it's like if somebody was sick and they were a family member, I was afraid to go to sleep.
Well, yeah.
So, but as I got older and we moved into a very I know it's haunted. My sister knows it's haunted. My folks, I think they kind of know, but it's kind of like we live here. We'll just figure out how to deal with it. But
Okay.
whatever.
The house that your folks are in right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When we moved into that house, I was 9.
Okay.
And I could feel, and it was whatever it was is not positive. I
Okay.
remember like on Halloween, I would gladly take my siblings out. I think I took them out in a blizzard rather than be in that house passing out candy.
Right.
I would be in that house alone with every light on, every door open. I'd have the front, the back door open. The closets were all open. All the lights were on because I could not tell you why. I just knew that I was scared that something bad had happened in the house.
Right. It was
Um,
just a sense that you had.
I had a sense, and I have found out that yeah, whatever in the house doesn't like me, I don't like it, and to sage myself and everybody that's coming with me before I bring them into the house
Right.
or
Right.
do a cleansing. So it's like picking up on spirits that aren't good, and so now I have the tools to figure out who is good, and if you are not, you just need to stand over there. I
Right.
have actually been given the tools between Pat Longo and Kim Russo and a couple of other teachers that I read and worked with virtually to, always say, I don't receive any negativity. I don't see death. So if someone asks, is son so-and-so going to die? I don't know. We're all going to die. That's my
Right.
answer. At some point,
Right.
yes. At some point, the answer to that
That's a good
question is
answer.
yes.
Yeah, it's a good
I'm
answer.
not I'm not going to tell you when because I don't want to know.
Right.
I don't
Sure.
think you should know and not my place and I don't receive that.
Right. Right.
But the first few times where it was like picking up on stuff and it was people that were in college that I lived with, that was weird. They were like taken aback, like, I think I need a new roommate. And it's like,
Wow. Okay.
we're better
So,
now.
so they were kind of giving you validation by being freaked out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
But
So,
now
all right,
it's easier,
I
especially
gotcha.
when I do Reiki because everybody's calm and I
So, yeah,
receive
I want to
messages.
get into that. Trisha is asking to tell the story of when you guys met, and what
Oh,
for the
yes.
message. But before you do,
That was an awesome
I'm a
story.
little confused. I just want to say, so you have memories of hanging out with your grandmother when you were very young,
Mhm.
and being the only one who talked to her, and then was it after she passed that she gave you the messages and said that meant a lot to her? Was that what you were trying to say earlier?
No, what I was just trying to say is it meant a lot to her to have one of her great grandchildren sitting with her. Like the adults came over and were talking to
But
her.
how did you know that it meant a lot to her? That's what I'm saying. Did she come to you later after she had passed and said, "Hey, I remember when you did that," or no? That was just
If she
you just knew
has,
intuitively.
I just knew intuitively
I
because
gotcha.
if she
Okay.
has, she would have done it in a dream. At
Okay.
that age, I just knew that it meant a lot to her because all the other kids are like running around, and here's this oddball like sitting on her lap in a wheelchair.
Right.
And all
Right.
the adults are talking to her, but I know it meant a lot to tell those stories to somebody who was young and interested.
Right. And hadn't heard them a million times before, probably.
Exactly. That was pretty much it. And I hadn't heard them. It's like, this is the first time I'm hearing them. Probably the last time I heard them,
No,
but
that's
first
great,
time.
and you were genuinely interested. That's great. So let's get to the story. Trisha says, tell the story about when you met and gave her those messages. So I'm imagining that was not through Reiki. That was just kind of through just meeting her and feeling
Trish was,
some
yeah.
stuff.
So Trish had recently moved back into her parents' house, and the boys were in the same class. So this was like fourth grade when they moved back in to the neighborhood.
Okay.
And I didn't know Trish and Rob or Robert at the time at all. So we're at this birthday party. It's at a movie theater, so it's a movie party. And so I had stepped out of the movie theater and she had stepped out of the movie theater and we just started chatting. I didn't even know Trisha's name. So I started asking her all these questions about who had this failure, who had, you know, this problem. And I explained to her in the conversation, like I think halfway through the conversation, that I was a medium. Because we were just talking, and it was early on that I had explained to her that I was a medium. Halfway through the conversation is where it gets funny. So we were talking about how her mom passed because I picked up on her mom. We were talking about how her brother Rich had passed because he came up as well. And then halfway through the conversation, I go, "Who's Patricia?" And she goes, "Oh, that's me. We hadn't introduced each other to one another." So it's like,
So suddenly you got her name.
suddenly got her name, and I got her
Right.
name from her mom.
Mhm.
And it was great because that was validation for me, because I'm having conversation with this person, and at the time we weren't friends. I didn't know her anything about her, and I'm starting to give her messages from her
So
mom and her sister.
her mom was basically like told you to ask her who Patricia is so that
Yeah, so that we
that
could
would come out.
introduce. It's like,
That
"Hi, I'm Trish."
that's hysterical.
Yeah, because and then she's like, I go, and then that's when she's like, I go by Trisha. It's like, okay.
Okay.
But
So
it was great because that was validation, and I was able to talk to it was a comfort level. I just felt comfortable walking up, because I'm not necessarily comfortable walking up to a random person.
right,
Hey, your Uncle Joe has a message for you.
right,
It's
right,
like,
right.
I would not do that, but
Sure.
something told me to tell Trisha, because she really needed to hear it. It was shortly after her mother passed.
Right, right.
So,
And that's how you guys became friends.
yes,
Cool.
yes.
And since then have you given Reiki to Trisha and gotten messages through the Reiki or not
Yes,
specifically?
actually, I prefer to use Reiki as a way of getting people calmed down, so that
Mhm.
they are open to receive the messages that they need to hear. Because sometimes, and I know I've been this person, sometimes we go to a psychic or a medium and we want to hear from somebody specific, and that person doesn't step forward. And
Right,
so we get upset.
right,
So I use Reiki to calm people down, and then they're able to
right.
receive the messages. And yes, Trisha was nice enough. Trish and Diana were both nice enough to be test subjects when I was going through my Reiki training.
Gotcha.
And they've been with me every step of the way. Trish has felt my hands get very hot. I'll like randomly get hot, and we'll be like watching a movie or something like that. And it's like my hands are hot, and I'll just like give me your wrist. My hands are hot.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's been very nice because I have that support system, and everybody is like, it's not necessarily the validation I need. It's, do you feel better afterward? Do you feel better, like I've helped you? Do you feel like I've calmed you
Right,
down? Do you feel like you
right,
got something out of it? And it's nice to have friends that will tell you, yes, I felt this, or no, I didn't feel this, or yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Or I'll get a call, and I've done this to other people as well. You'll get a call 20 minutes later. It was so and so. Now it makes sense.
right. Yeah, you know what? That's I find that a lot with psychic mediums, and I've been rarely have I been read, but when I am read, it's kind of like you're on the spot and you're like, oh, I don't really recall that, and then it's afterwards that you'll make those connections. So I totally understand that. But okay, so I want to actually move ahead forward because to where we are now, because I've kind of been with you on the last leg of your journey, I guess.
Mhm.
Ever since you did Reiki on me and kind of, I think at that time you weren't really thinking about doing it professionally. You I don't know if you even knew that you wanted to. Maybe you did. You knew that it was calling you. I know that.
Yes.
But I have seen in the last year, in the last 6 months, even more so, this amazing kind of change happening, and you really kind of stepping into your power, feeling much more comfortable with telling people this is what you do and wanting to do it. And that's brought you to a few places, but why don't we talk about where you are now, which is you now have a physical place that you're doing Reiki out of. Why don't you tell us about that?
So a couple of things. So I always thought I would be doing Reiki kind of like as, and that's, I don't want to call it a side hustle, but on the side. As like, I plan on doing it. I plan on doing it on the side to make additional money and help people.
Mhm.
I really feel called to be doing it all the time because that's how I'm going to be serving the greater good.
Mhm.
And so I'm working towards that. And I did have a space in Miller Place for a little while, and that was a great space, but it was too far out for a lot of people. So unless you lived in that area, getting people from the boroughs or Nassau to come out that far, or
Mhm.
even parts of Western Suffolk, were like,
Right.
that's too far.
Right.
So it was hard to get it off the ground. And like, okay, I didn't fail. It wasn't working. And I was also, she was going very salon versus
Mhm.
spa. She wanted it to be a salon spa, and unfortunately, it was becoming more spa than salon, or more salon than spa.
Right, right, right. But I mean, forget about the details. But it was becoming apparent intuitively that, hey, maybe this is the right spot.
Right.
Um, and I think, you know, through our spiritual circles, you were introduced to where you are now. So why don't you talk about where
Yeah.
you are, and who you're working with, and what's going on over there?
Work with Deb, who is the owner of the Emerald Door. I rent a room from her. She has half of it is a salon and half of it is a holistic spa. It's more holistic than anything. And I'm one of 3 practitioners that does energy medicine and energy work.
Hmm.
And we're all independent. But that what I love about it is the energy. She's really bringing in some positive energy, working on bringing in the holistic side of energy and connecting
Hmm.
with spirit and
Hmm.
working on helping others connect with spirit,
Hmm.
whatever that means for them, whether
Well,
that's
she's it's interesting. We had a conversation when she was cutting my hair, and I learned a little bit about Deb, that she's actually also very spiritual and has
yep.
some psychic abilities, and just is really really connected to who she is and her path. And I think, again, that's the biggest thing that we talk about here all the time, is finding out who you are and being your true self. And that's even why you're here, because your true self is really starting to come out, and you are starting to see exactly how you affect people. And I'm really happy to see that, and be your partner, and see you smile when you successfully bring someone into Reiki that hasn't been brought into to it before. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit for bringing me into it. You know what I mean? And I mean, I very, very wholeheartedly, my beliefs. I very wholeheartedly believe in energy and other dimensions and all of these things. But, I personally have had not a lot of success with things like past life regression.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I connect with my past lives. I just don't know specifically what they are, and that's okay. You know what I mean? But again, the fact that, when I sat with you and did Reiki, I actually experienced something that was tangible. I think that's really cool. Seeing this all happen. So the Emerald Door, for people, I know everybody is all around the country. Some people are, not even in this country that are watching. The Emerald Door is local on Long Island. It's in Huntington. Um, and again, Deb, who owns it, is, I think she wanted to go in this spiritual direction because
Yeah.
she's got her own spiritual inclinations. So
Yep.
she's got these energy workers there, and Janice is there too. So something else that you do that is totally related, and you just started, is these guided meditations. Why don't we talk about the guided meditations and what your thoughts are and plans are for that, and how it makes you feel and all of that stuff?
Uh, Guided meditations for me feels like it's very grounding and helpful to everyone because people are like, I can't meditate. I can't meditate unless someone's walking me through it. So I'm there when with the guided meditations and helping people walk through it. People who say I can't meditate, no, no, you have to make the time. It's I don't want to meditate.
Mhm, mhm,
I
mhm.
don't know how. I can accept. I don't. I can't. I we can all say I can't, but it's because we don't want to. Anytime we say we
Sure.
can't, it's more along the lines of I haven't tried, I don't want to try it, I haven't put my best foot forward.
Right.
Whereas with guided meditation, it's like, okay, we're going to do this together. I'm going to do my best to get you into a meditative state, and at least you can say you've tried.
Right.
I
Right.
do guided meditations for all seven chakras, for coming into stillness and peace. I'm working on one for self confidence using orange carilion. I'm working on one for recalibration so that you can like feel all the chords work together for all seven chakras, of kind of like equalizing it. If you're, I know you're into music, but for people who aren't into music, it's like getting that stereo equalized so everything works properly. You don't have too much bass, you don't have too much treble, you don't have too much off. The right
Right.
and
Right.
speakers
Right.
working, so is the left, that sort of thing, where you can hear well.
Right.
And everyone, I would like to say that on Sunday, I am doing a free webinar on practical meditation, because you can do a walking meditation. So
Mhm,
you be
mhm.
out in nature walking, just observing, and kind of get lost in your surroundings in a positive way. You could be folding the laundry. You could
Right.
just put on YouTube at a frequency and just fold your clothes. And it's a
Right.
matter of letting your mind not be busy.
I think people need to understand that that's I wanted to go back to that, and it's important what you said about meditation in general and guided meditation. Trisha's saying she still fucks it up.
But
uh,
we work together,
but you
Trish.
work together, and Diana is saying guided meditations are so helpful, and I want to agree with Diana because I feel like you hit it on the head. When people say I can't meditate, um, you got to go past that answer. Do you not want to meditate? Do you not want to give it time? Because I feel like the first step is saying, okay, I'm going to commit to giving this an hour to try it and see if it'll work. And if you're committed to that hour, then I think it is a matter of if you have a good guide. So for me, it was Steve Interrante. Steve.
You know, Steve.
Um, but the way Steve would talk to you before you meditate, it wasn't like you got to the meditation class and you were expected to sit down, get in position, and start oming. You would discuss it beforehand, and Steve would talk about, and I think a lot of good guided meditators talk about the idea of what is the everyday like. So in other words, he used to refer to it as the hamster wheel, right? So you wake up and immediately you're like, okay, what emails do I have to answer? What do I have on my list to do? I got to make breakfast, I got to have my coffee, I got to do this. You're immediately on this hamster wheel. And meditating is, people feel like, I think there's a specific thing that's supposed to happen, like, okay, I'm supposed to get off this hamster wheel and feel a certain way.
No.
But it's not until you can understand the idea of letting the hamster wheel still exist, but just kind of being mindful of it and taking a step back, and I guess you are kind of getting off the hamster wheel, but it's not like, I think the biggest block I see people say is, I can't stop my thoughts.
But
And
you're not supposed to. I
exactly.
mean,
So
every
that's
meditation teacher that I personally had when training, it's like you're not going to be the monk on the mountain sitting at the top of the hill. It's not going to work. Thoughts are going to come in, and you're going to say, I acknowledge that, and you're going to let them go out. And then let them come in and they'll go out. It takes practice. And that's
mhm,
where
mhm,
guided meditation and visualization is extremely helpful. And that's why I do them. And that's why um, I'm doing the webinar on that, because people are like, I'm too busy. It's like, well, let me show you how to bring it into your busy life. If you've got 5 minutes at the beginning of the day and you want to start your day meditating, wonderful.
oop,
If you have 5 minutes at the end of the day before you go to bed, I can help you there too. You can incorporate it in doing your chores and everything. And that was something that surprised me, but it's kind of like, oh, yeah, just put on not lyrical and meditation music and just fold your laundry.
right. Right, exactly. You just reminded me by telling me a little bit about that, and Carrie reminded me. She said, "Yes, tell us where to tune in for your webinar." So, people can register for that at the Quiet Healer, or is that not correct?
That's on Facebook. You can
Oh, on
register on
Facebook. Okay.
Facebook/The Quiet Healer.
Okay. Let me change
Um,
that banner then. Uh, Facebook.com/The Quiet Healer.
yep.
Okay. And um, I'm trying to do too many things at once here now. At the Quiet Healer, not.com. There we go. So Facebook.com, the Quiet
Quiet
Healer.
Healer. Yep.
That's where you can see this event and you can sign up for this seminar. But you're also doing actual guided meditations, right? At the Emerald
Yes,
Door.
I'm going to be starting up again in July in person with the guided meditation. The first one, I'm going to be gearing it towards, again, self-confidence, rooting in self-confidence. We'll be using orange carnelian, which is very good for self-confidence, courage, and bravery. And at the end of it, you get to keep the stone. I'm also going to utilize and do one for adolescents right before school starts, hitting the teenagers, because it's like either you're a freshman or a junior, getting back into, oh no, I got this, that, and the other thing. It just kind of helps them feel confident and boost their confidence. Like, you have this, you have the year, it's all good. And
Yeah.
also being an adolescent in general, as I do have a 15-year-old, Trish and Diana also have teenagers. I know there's a bunch of people out there with teenagers. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not easy. In fact, I think it's harder to be an adolescent in this day and age because of
Sure.
social media than when I was growing up and when you were
Sure.
growing up. Like, I
Yeah.
struggled with bullies. I struggled with self-confidence just being an adolescent.
Right. Right.
And then
Right.
you compound it with Twitter and Instagram and
Right.
unreal
Right. Right. Well, I
expectations.
think what you're saying is important. Like, I think we do need to, teach the young people how to meditate. I think it's even been proven, when they have these programs in schools, and there are second graders and
Mindfulness.
third graders who know how to meditate. It's really truly amazing. It really makes a difference. I mean, I have a story I love to tell about a meditation that I did that Steve Interante was leading, and I think I've told you this story, and I know I've told this story on the live stream, but it's a great story, and that is that there was a woman in the meditation who brought her young daughter who was like 8 years old, and everyone was kind of like, oh, looking at this young girl in this guided meditation, and Steve said, nope, she already knows how to meditate. They do it in school. And he asked her to describe what meditating was, and she just started talking about her experiences, and everybody was just like, oh wow, this is amazing. And my experience with the meditation was when we were meditating and going through it, it was the first time for me that I was actually able to visualize uh the people I was with. So I was with Linda, if you know Linda from Look Up for Adam. Uh,
Yes, Linda.
I was with Linda, and so in my meditation, we were all in a circle, bathed in white light, and she was next to me. And while we were just sitting there and just feeling amazing and being in this white light, the young girl walked over to me and said, "Everything's going to be all right." And I'm getting a little choked up because it was very emotional, and I was like, okay, that's odd. It was very loving, and it wasn't alarming, but it was just like, okay, that's very odd. And then after the meditation, we all got up, and Steve introduced me to this woman. Said, "Hey, come on." And then as he's introducing the daughter to me, she comes over to me and she just grabs my leg and she just hugs my leg. And it was just like this moment where I was just like, holy shit, this just happened. Like, this just happened in the meditation. And it was really powerful. And I think that I guess my point is, that's where the change is going to happen. the
Yep.
the the youth just kind of understanding uh, meditation and understanding how to connect with that love energy. You know what I mean? And that kind of, it just felt so non-judgmental, and unconditional. That's the word I'm looking for. So anyway, I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there, but
But it's also true with like Reiki, because Lorraine will tell stories about like her son was trying out for the basketball team, and he's kind of like, "Ma, can you send some Reiki?" And she sent it at the wrong time, and it was very funny because he got home and she's like, she goes, "Ma, you did it at the wrong time."
the other team scored. You helped the
Uh,
other team.
Whereas with Jeffrey, when I was learning and becoming a Reiki master teacher, he was my reluctant test subject. He
Right.
was, and now, like when he gets hurt or something, I'm like, "Do you want Reiki?" Maybe. And that's Jeffrey speak for yes, but over there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I
Give
remember
me the
when
Reiki, ma.
yeah, I remember he got swimmer's ear about a year ago, and I
Mhm.
go, "Do you want Reiki?" And he said yes, and he put my hand right on his ear, and my hand was
Mhm.
like super hot. And usually when my hands get super hot, because I'll ask him, I'll touch him, I go, "My hand's hot." He goes, "Yes, stop touching me."
Right,
See, they're hot. That was the first time where he that's what he wanted, and
right, right,
he didn't say maybe. He's like yes, and he put his hand right on and put my hand right on his head, and it helped him. So he's learning that this does help. He's not necessarily thinking that because Jeffrey is very intuitive. He's like, "Ma, I don't want to be a medium. I don't want to do this." And I go, "You don't have to, but you have to
right,
tell them to go away." I
right,
have. I'm like, no, you have to tell them to go away. Just because you have to be firm with them. Um, that was a weird side tangent, but with the Reiki, he knows that it helps. It's like he'll get
right,
injured, and he knows that he wants Reiki.
right. So okay, it's a side tangent, but it's interesting. You're saying you've had conversations with Jeffrey, your
Hmm.
son, about him having sense of like being a medium. So him having
Hmm.
sense of the other side.
Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah.
what has he said to you?
That he sees them. See, I don't necessarily see. I see them more now, but when I see they're showing me pictures. It's like an interesting game of win, lose, or draw. Like they'll
Right,
show
right,
me
right.
pictures, they'll show me symbols. I have all the clairs, so I hear, see, feel, smell. I don't taste. That's the one I don't have, but everything
Okay.
else. So I'm clairaudient, clairsentient,
Right.
clairvoyant. I have all of those, but I've never actually like. Very rarely do I see an actual person. He sees people,
Oh wow. So
and
physical
he was like,
physical
"Who?" Like,
entities.
yeah, he was very young, and he'll be asking me, "Who is that?" And I didn't
Mhm.
know who he was seeing, so I just said, "That's Grandpa Dean." Everybody was Grandpa Dean. It could have been his Aunt Joanne, who passed way before he was born. That's Grandpa Dean, because he wasn't describing it, but he was
Mhm.
young.
Mhm.
So he wasn't describing the person. It's like he would just point to the ceiling. Who is that? And I'm like, I don't see the person. I know that the person's around. I'm not going to say that the
Right.
person's not around.
Right.
Um, but I didn't know who he was seeing because I don't see them as a physical apparition. I
Right.
get other messages, see things otherwise.
Right. 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 Yeah, I think that's what a lot of the mediums who describe it describe it that way, kind of like a game of charades, kind of like showing things that are symbolic of other things.
Right.
I know
Christopher
like
Allen will,
yeah, the way he talks about it a lot of times, he'll be like, "Hey, I'm seeing Joe DiMaggio," so that may mean a few things. It may mean, hey, there's
yeah,
somebody named Joe. It may mean, hey, Joe DiMaggio
baseball fan, a Yankee
was
fan.
number 23. It may
Yeah.
be the number, might be significant. So, I've seen all of these different ways that the messages come through, and I guess as you become more in tune with your own intuitiveness, you start to recognize what those messages mean, and I guess they start to communicate with you in those certain
Right.
ways.
Every medium has their own library. So my library and Chris's library are different.
Right, right, right.
And just like
It's a good way to put it.
every Reiki master, I have a lot of fellow Reiki master teachers that I use crystals. I will incorporate. I've done the advanced healing, so I incorporate crystals. I incorporate now. I took sound healing courses, so
I was
I
just gonna say,
incorporate.
let's I was just gonna say, let's talk about that. You're still um again, watching you kind of grow into this has been a pleasure for me. But now you've taken some sound healing, so tell us how that relates to the Reiki and how you plan on incorporating that.
That was wonderful. So, a fellow student, Laura, who is a retired music teacher, so now she incorporates sound. I see Suki moving in the background. She incorporates sound healings into her Reiki sessions. And Lorraine's like, "Can you teach us how to do that?" And so she came in and she did. And the frequencies will all vibrate at the same. So, like, 369 and 417 and 528, they're never going to change their frequency. They're always going to be that same vibration. So, like, if you put them on sound, the same picture, because you with the mandalas, they're all going to create the same picture every time you stroke 417,
Right.
528.
So you're talking about the oh my God, I forget the name of it, but when they have the sand on the speakers and
Yes,
the certain frequencies create certain patterns.
patterns. And
Yeah,
that will never change.
I'm dying to get Charlie Tedesco on the show.
Nice.
He's a
Yes.
sound healer, and I you know, it's interesting. I think anybody who's experienced crystal bowls, you know, specifically for me, I know the first time I experienced a crystal bowl, I felt the sound coming from inside of my body. Like it was like, you know, the frequency and the way that it resonated was, you know, was just so obvious to me, and opening it, you know, it opened my senses and just my whole frequency. Julie B is saying cymatics. Yes,
Thematics.
that's
Yes.
the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Amazing. That's such an amazing
And
science. You know what I mean? Those are the kinds of things where science and spirituality cross. You know, you're physically manifesting sacred geometry. You know what I mean? It's just really crazy with some of
And
that stuff.
anyway, taking the classes with Laura really has helped us, and we're ready to incorporate it with our Reiki sessions. I want a gong. I got there late because I had helped one of Jeffrey's friends. Jeffrey's friend needed a ride home. He had a bunch of lacrosse gear, and I was running late. I get there, I'm like frazzled. Everybody else had sat in front of the gong already. So so everyone else had experienced this and kind of knew it was coming. And Laura's like, "Okay, sit here, sit in front of the gong. It's this big, beautiful gong." I'm like, "Okay," close my eyes. I get nice and steady breath, and all of a sudden you hear this like gong. It was almost kind of like the Gong Show, but nicer. It was
Right,
like you
right, right.
feel all this vibration and all the tension, everything vibrate off of you. It was really nice. And you hear everybody kind of giggle because they'd already done it. And so here I am. So I get to see somebody who was just like, "I was in traffic. I need to calm down." And it
Right.
was really nice. And once, I come back down a little bit, I go, "I need one of those." So I want a gong. I want a nice medium
All
sized
right.
gong.
It's the first time I heard you say that. There'll be one here on Monday.
And
No.
I mean, I have my drum that I use occasionally in a bowl, but I want to incorporate it more. Like
Right,
now, when I have clients on the table, I used to do Reiki in silence. Now,
right.
when I have a client on the table, I ask my guides, what frequency do they need? And then I will type in that frequency and put it on, like on YouTube, find one that doesn't
Right,
have any commercials, and make sure that that's playing in the room for that.
right. And you know what? I will say I think that whole science of sound is there's something to it, because I know for me, you know, once I started putting on those different frequencies and things to go to sleep to, you know, my whole life changed. I just was much calmer, you know. And I definitely felt a difference in just the ability to process you know, life, I think. So there's definitely something to be said for that. Diana says she needs a gong too.
Yes, you'll love it, Diana. We can all we'll use it together.
And, and actually, you know what? That's another great example. So I was using the example before of the energy in the room that you can feel, you know, when you go to a concert or something like that. The energy of sound, you know, especially if you're sitting, you know, and your back is up against the gong and someone strikes the gong and you're, you know, you could still be 5 inches away from it. You'll feel those
Yes.
vibrations. You'll feel it up and down your back. You'll feel it move through you. I mean, that's a physical manifestation of frequency, and where you could start to wrap your head around it, and you can start to be like, all right, I understand that this is some sort of energy. This is some sort of basis of source. Amazing, amazing. So I just out of the corner of my eye caught the fact that we've been talking for an hour already. Uh, it's amazing that we haven't even really scratched the surface. I don't feel, but I am super excited to see you doing your thing and finally really being able to have your own clients that believe in you and want to come back because they felt it. You know what I mean? That's what more could you ask for as a Reiki practitioner, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, Michael LaRocca. Carl Palmer has used his gong drums in all his solos. So I think we're talking about Emerson, Lake, and Palmer there. Uh, Carl Palmer is the percussion and the drummer. So he uses his gong. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of probably musicians and people that you wouldn't think are actually putting the science of sound healing and things into their music, and maybe sometimes they don't even realize it, but I think that that's why music is such a uh force that everybody can relate to. You know what I mean? Even though not everybody likes the same kind of music
It does
usually,
something. Yeah.
like if music starts playing, you'll see people start to go, like people react to it because it's frequency. You know what I mean? And we all share on that same frequency.
It's very
So
funny. Yeah, that
yeah,
that
so
that's how it works.
so I guess I'm gonna give you a chance to just, this is like your chance to tell us what you're gonna be doing. I know you've got this seminar coming up. Is it still open to registration?
Yes, it closes on Friday.
Okay,
Closes
so that's
Friday night. So
okay.
tomorrow, so that if you want to join now.
Okay,
Right now, there's plenty of space available. There's like 50 slots. So if you want to be involved, do sign up, register. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. You just have to be available 10 a.m. Eastern time, New York time if you're in a different
okay,
country. It's about 45 minutes. And during that time, we actually do a couple of meditations. So I can show you how you bring it in
great.
just into daily life. We do a mantra, we do a visualization, and we do a guided meditation.
Awesome. So I'm just going to throw this up on the screen. This is your website, thequiethealer.com. Um, and you can see here uh, at the bottom is register today. And that is actually, that's not the free class, but that is, I'm going to just go to your calendar and go to July. So you can see here in July on the Saturdays, you can sign up for these guided meditations that Janice will be doing. So I'm super excited to kind of come join you and experience some guided meditations with you in your new space.
Yes. And any questions about how Reiki works or the way that I work, you can definitely ask them, or you can shoot me an email or a direct message through Facebook. I'm always happy to answer questions because, like I said, my journey was one where if I hadn't done Reiki, I don't think I would have made it through my divorce. I don't think I would have. I think I would have been more of a shell of a person than anything else. And I wouldn't be as strong intuitively as I feel I am connected now. This has really enhanced my skills as an intuitive and medium.
Right.
And it helps me to help others. I calm other people down, which helps them receive messages. It's like Trish. She was just, Trish is one of the people who is very open. So I can read her and not have to give her Reiki. Whereas I read a couple of sisters once and, they wanted to hear from a specific person and I wasn't giving them the information that they wanted to hear. I
Mm-hmm.
was giving them what I was receiving. But
Mm-hmm.
once I gave each of them Reiki individually and sat with them individually, they received the messages that they needed to hear. So that experience taught me that even though I have somebody in one of my teachers might say it's ego, I believe in the one-on-one. I believe that is more powerful. I believe that it works better, and I believe I am of greater service that way.
Yeah, I would say that's the way you connect best, you know,
I
to
mean, a
people. I
group
mean,
meditation is wonderful. It's kind of like we're all going to get into a group think kind of space. Wherever the journey takes you, it takes you.
right.
But for your own personal healing, for your own personal spiritual journey, I believe that in the one-on-one.
Great. Awesome. So Trisha's saying, thank God for you. She also, I don't remember what this was. Dance. I guess I missed what that response was to something. But Janice, you are, you know what I think of you. I think you are amazing and beautiful and powerful and you know, I can't wait to see where this takes you. And thank you for being my guest on my show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. So I'm gonna just kind of stick you in the green room, but don't go anywhere. I'll talk to you in a minute.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just say goodbye to everybody. But again, thank you, baby. It was great to have you here, and great
It was nice to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Sophie says, "I'm so proud."
Thank you, Sophie.
And there's Deb. Deb says hi. And Lily says, "Thank you so much, Janice." And Deb missed it. Sorry, Deb. You'll have to catch the replay because we're just saying goodbye to Janice now. Janice, I will see you tomorrow, and we'll have you back on the show.
Wonderful.
So see you later. That was amazing. Oh my God. I was so nervous to have my girlfriend on the show, but she is so amazing and beautiful and so powerful. If you haven't experienced Reiki, I would recommend her as a first shot because it worked for me after not having felt it, and it was all good. So I definitely recommend Janice. I totally, as always, appreciate everybody for being here and sharing their energy with us and being excited about this. I'm just going to throw this up. I have you can't read that. Next week on the show, I have Dara Weiss Miller, who is clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant, clairaudient. She's got all the clairs as well. So we seem to be talking to a lot of psychics who are just connected to the energy field. So I'm excited to have Dara on the show next week. And then the following week, you guys will get to meet Kerry. Kerry will be on the show, and she's the one who's been helping me put the show together. And she's also got some amazing powers of her own. And then hopefully beyond that, we'll get Charlie Tedesco and some other really cool people. I'm excited about this. So thank you all for being. Michael, thanks for being here as well. Lily, thank you for always supporting me so much. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.